Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Contact Lost, where we go through the lists of the upcoming Pyra Cup nations. I'm Joker, and my guest today is Danny. Hello, Danny.
Bonjour.
All right, he's going to be helping me out with his expertise when we go through the list. But first of all, a massive thank you to all our subscribers, our Patreons, and our sponsors at Weyland-Yutani and the Army Painter. So, Danny, you excited for this weekend?
I am actually. Mienzic.
Oh, well done.
Oh, thank you. I've been practicing actually. It's actually a really nice place. We did this last year, and the venue was amazing. The teams were amazing. It's a really good, probably one of the best teams tournaments we've actually been to. Not biased at all. So really excited for this.
And what do you think about the state of the game in general going into this event?
I think he's actually a bit more balanced than it's been in the past. Seeing a lot of armies like Craftward and CSM take a bit of a hit, and I think that's a good space. But also, there's a few unknowns as well. So hopefully, we'll figure out a little bit more about the meta after this weekend, as we see everyone's ideologies sort of clash and see what comes out at the top. So I think it's in a good spot at the minute.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting because the team compositions are all over the place. The faction spread's actually quite big, which we'll get to in a moment. Or actually, might as well just put it on the screen, and I'll figure out how to make this a bit bigger. But yeah, there's like only one faction is present across all of the teams, and I think no surprises.
I don't think that's a surprise at all. I think we all expected that. Necrons are almost a must-have at this point for any team that wants to do well.
Yep, but other than that, there's no other faction that all of the teams have taken. So I think that speaks volumes about the state of the game, and it will be very interesting to see how all these factions clash against each other. So, as mentioned, we've got 8 Necrons, then the second most popular picks are Custodes and Space Marines, 7 times. Then we've got Sisters and Eldar 6 times. So, have Eldar not taken enough of a hit?
Oh no, it's almost impossible to sort of like balance that index. We generally have to wait until the codex so they can just do a bit of a hit to it with the data sheets. It's just too good, and especially in the team's presence, it can really bring a lot for teams. I think the biggest shock for me is that there's only 6 and not 8. So it's good to see some teams are trying to build a composition without it. Maybe they're anticipating further nerfs, I don't know, but it's nice to see that they're thinking a bit more outside of the box and looking for solutions elsewhere.
Okay. Then we've got Death Guard with 5 people taking it. Guard and Orcs at 4. And I'm going to stop for a second here because Guard, Custodes, and Sisters are, I think, and maybe even Orcs, but not so much. But those 3 are definitely ones that I would have expected to see more of. What do you think?
Custodes, absolutely. I think Custodes is like one of the armies that a lot of people have because it's a very low barrier to entry. And it's not a particularly difficult army to play. So I expected to see a lot of Custodes. I did expect to see 8 Custodes and not 7. Sisters, Sisters is, again, at first, for a while, a lot of people were very under the radar about Sisters. From the offset, it doesn't look strong at all. And then once you start seeing the sort of different data sheets play together and build out strategies, and it's got a lot of tricks, I think people are starting to see its power more. However, it's not the easiest army to play. So I can see why that's popular, but not completely, the most popular. Guard is an interesting one. So Guard is really good. Like a lot of people say Guard's in like the top 3. I think Guard is in the top 3 at the minute. We've seen how like devastating it can be as an army. However, Guard is a very specific playstyle, and it requires a very specific build, I think, to win with, and that's probably why there's not as many Guard players.
Yeah, I can see that, although I would expect more of them in a team setting. I mean, surely you could find a good pilot of Guard for an 8-man team, and it just fits a good role. and can be a bit of a hitter. So I'm surprised there. Sisters, yes, I totally agree. I mean, it's not an obvious army to play with. There isn't like one single data sheet. Well, maybe the Arco-Flagellants that just scream power at you when you look at it. It's all little tips and tricks and how it all comes together. And custodes, well, custodes are a bit of an obvious one, as you said, but they're not all using Manny's boot from Northampton, are they, though?
I've not even looked at Manny's list, to be honest. I just saw Custodes and I thought I'm not even going to get into that one. Custodes, whenever they're viable, they're always going to be used because it is always like a bit of a brick wall for some armies. And it's very good sort of to mess around for pairings and throw out people, especially as an early attacker. So Custodes are always going to be popular if they are quite hot in the meta. The interesting one is Death Guard because Death Guard's quite a good counter to Custodes in some areas, but it can counter some armies or it can be draw at least with things like Guard. Death Guard can counter the Orcs. I think maybe even like things like Grey Knights and stuff like that. So they're quite an interesting meta army. Not everybody's, obviously, you can see with only 5 out of 8, not everybody's high up on them. The other thing that I think is quite surprising is Nids. So Tyranids are especially something that we've been very up on in Poland, but it's something that a lot of the rest of the countries have been quite down on. So to see only 3 teams is quite interesting from their perspective, I think. Because it's got quite a lot of different builds that can impact how pairings are done across the team. So
3 teams.
I believe we've taken it.
Both of the Polish ones. No, we've got Duda's team's got Nids.
Yeah, Duda's team took it. I think Netherlands have taken it, and was it Belgium that might have taken it, or Scotland? I can't remember. You've got them now, haven't you?
Yeah, but I have to double check. I did sort the factions, and I can see that it's gone a bit wonky. So now a couple of teams here have 9 armies, and the others have 7.
Nice.
So we use 30 keeper for that. Nevertheless, back to the topic at hand. I mean, Nids didn't really get any sort of major hit in the data slate, although I can't really remember the changes.
They got just points changes,
right?
Yeah, they got a couple of points changes going down, a couple of points changes going up. Like Gargoyles got hit, which Gargoyles really needed to get hit. They were really
that's true. But the Exocrine, I think, was untouched to at least my surprise.
I think it was, and the is it Tyrannocyte, whatever it's called, Tyrannofex went down. Yeah, which excited some people. The Norn, I think, went down. Not that the Norn matters at all, but it didn't make an impact that it didn't really shove it up or down in the meta, I would say, but it still is very relevant for teams. So I'm wondering if it performs this weekend and other teams sort of take that away as one of their ideas for when they leave Pyra.
Sure. Then we've got Grey Knights, also picked up 3 times. We've got Votan twice, Thousand Suns twice. I'm a bit surprised to see Thousand Suns. I mean...
Thousand Suns is an interesting one because I think, from my perspective, Thousand Suns is a really good army. It's very difficult to pilot properly. It does have some really bad matchups, but it's also got some good matchups. And I believe some teams, this is an answer for Necrons. Not everyone agrees with this sort of sentiment, I think, and it's something that we'll find out that this weekend. But I'm definitely excited to see what the each team does with that. Belgium, I think, have got Thousand Suns, is it?
No, it's England and USA.
England,
okay,
sure England and USA. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But I'm keen. I'm excited.
Yep, same. Then we've got a couple of armies that have shown up once. So we've got Tau, World Eaters, Chaos Knights, Gene Stealers, Drukhari, Demons, and only one showing of Chaos Space Marines. So what's your thoughts here?
Very different, isn't it, from like a week or a few weeks ago? Well, every team, because we went to the ITT. I went to the ITT a few weeks ago, and I think CSM We didn't go against a single team that did not have CSM, I think, if I remember correctly. And they were very popular. So to see them sort of being down is interesting. The question is whether it's either a bad army or people just haven't figured out a space for a build that it can just slot into and work. So maybe it needs a little bit more tinkering, a little bit more practice.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, after the data slate, I was thinking about this for a little while and comparing the CSM nerfs to Eldar nerfs. And when you think about it, they got hit much harder because all of the like rules part of the top list that appeared got hit, nerfed in some way. Like, you know, they've changed the full reroll stratagem, the Nurgle strat, etc., etc. And on top of that, they got quite big points increases. Whilst Eldar didn't get any points changes at all, right? They've just been tinkered with the rules a little bit.
This is I think what is the most perplexing for people regarding GW. Games Workshop will go into one army and put the most minimum nerfs in small increments every data slate, Eldar. Or they will go into another army and give piles and piles of different levels of nerfs, like World Eater CSM, which just completely makes them a lot worse. And it's the flip side as well. Like Custodes got a double buff. CSM got a double nerf. World Eater's got a double nerf. And for some reason, they just are very careful with craft wards. I just don't quite understand that. But
yeah, I think at this point, most of people don't, but have stopped.
You just have to accept it and play with the tools you get, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, lots of copium is what's needed. Right, so that's what the faction spread looks like. That's 19 different factions. I don't know how many there are in the game, to be honest, but I don't recall a time where you could see that many factions in the tournament, especially a teams one, I think. So that's very exciting. Now, moving on to the team compositions for each country that's coming for each team. Do you have any favorites? I mean, I've got the Polish teams and France for them being like, I want to say the least obvious, or well, most of these one shows come from these three.
I do quite like France's lineup, if I'm honest. I think they're experimenting, which is really good at this point. I think that's what you need to do because we're sort of at the precipice, I think, of where each team is sort of trying to decide who their player eight is for the WTC. So I think it's a great time to not necessarily play safe and try and think outside the box, think of what players can come up with, different ideas, and push boundaries that way. So I really enjoy France's lineup. I think USA have got an interesting lineup as well because, again, they're also trying to do something similar. And then I think Netherlands is all right as well, although they've got quite a lot of I think melee units or melee approach to the sort of game. So let's see how they do. You know, with like Orcs and the Custodes and the Death Guard and the even the Space Marines is like what? It's like Blood Angels focused. That's something to talk about after actually is the two Blood Angel sort of esque lists, which are really cool.
Yes. Looking at the Netherlands now, I would say they've got like the actual top 8 armies, maybe even. Because we've got Sisters, Eldar, Necron, Death Guard, Nits, Gusto, the Sam, Orcs. I think they're also the most represented ones, if you look at it, right?
Necrons, they've played a lot more safer.
Yeah, definitely. But it's these 8.
Yeah, so they've played it a lot more safer in terms of composition, but I think they've kind of pushed the bar out a little bit in terms of difference for composition. So, for example, their Necrons have got like triple monolith. And the Silent King. Their Space Marines has got like Blood Angels. Then it is like an interesting sort of monster mush style rather than going full out horde style. So they've got quite some interesting lists, but they have taken a more safer approach with army selection, I would say.
Yeah, and what's the France lineup? As I've mentioned, this has fumbled after I just quickly put the faction spread in order. So
Yeah, one of
one
them is not
is
really
an imposter here.
Yeah, one
I
is
know they've
definitely an
definitely
imposter.
got demons, Chaos Space Marines, Tau, and Blood Angels. They've definitely got Eldar. They've definitely got Necrons, because everyone's got Necrons. So it's Guard, Custodes,
So they've got
or Death
Cids,
Guard. That's
they've
the
got
odd one
demons.
out.
I don't think they've got Death Guard. They've got Tau.
They've got Custodes.
They've not got Death Guard.
They've not got, so Death Guard is the go away Death Guard. Let's remove it from here for anyone who's watching this with the visual help that we've got. So to summarize, it's Eldar, Space Marines of the Blood Angel flavor, Demons, Chaos Space Marines, Necrons Guard, Custodes, and Tau. So yeah, that's going to be very interesting. Obviously, the Space Marine Blood Angels player, Perkstar, the Space Marine innovator, so had to come up with something that's weird
He does
to
come
everyone
up with
else.
some very interesting lists, actually.
Yeah, I mean, he always does. As if he couldn't just take, the Vanguard Centurions or whatever.
Can't just take Iron Storm or whatever it's called. No, he has to be very special. But at the same time, I think it is one of the most coolest lists of this entire tournament.
And we will get to that.
Yeah, we will get to
that. Then we've got, I mentioned the Polish team, so might as well. So Dude as Dudes, got Grey Knights, Custodes, Necrons, Sisters.
You've also got 7 armies there.
Yeah, I can see that. Eldar, Chaos Knights, and now who am I missing here after this fumble? Can I remember this off the top of my head? Black Templars. Yeah, some have disappeared from here.
Yes.
Whilst Pumba's got 9 now, but they've got Votan, GSC, Drukari, Grey Knights, Custodes, Necron.
Because we don't have
SM.
They don't put SM into Pumbas, that's why, yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yep.
So I'm guessing you've missed off Belgium's Death Guard because it's gone down a attack. So you need to add Death Guard.
And that would be a very big omittance with taking into account who's piloting Belgium's Death Guard.
Which means if you go to the England, you need to move Guard up 1 slot.
That would be the pattern, wouldn't it?
Yeah, there we go.
There you go. Fixed. Fantastic. Not like it matters because we'll move on from this in a moment. But yeah, might as well just mention then the remainder of the teams. So we've got Belgium at Eldar, Custodes, Sisters, Nids, Necrons, Space Marines, Imperial Guard, and Death Guard.
They've also taken quite a safe approach to army selection, I would say, as well.
Yeah, actually, why don't you say a word about each of these that we haven't covered yet? So anything else to add on Belgium?
What I do find interesting, actually, I'll say this now, is the difference in lists for the Custodes between the 2 Custodes that we've got in the 2 Polish teams is completely different to the other Custodes lists in all the other teams. And all the other teams are almost identical lists. So yep. I'm very keen to see which performs better and how they sort of impact each pairings differently. Because Poland has got a very different idea of how Custodes should be run, it seems, than the rest of the world. So that's an interesting one.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely fill a little bit of a different role in those teams. I feel like the Polish Custodes can play a bit more aggressively, whilst the ones that the rest of the world are playing have a bit more resilience and probably designed to play like a safer defender role, maybe.
It's interesting, actually, because I'm not a big Custodes sort of expert, but my take on the Custodes that we've got is more of a I'm going to sit there and score. Sit there and score and be a bit more harder to remove because it's not as tanky as Wardens in the sense, but it is still a lot of Alaris. So there is a little bit of mobility and it is still Terminators kind of thing. But whereas the rest of the world have got a little bit more aggressive units, I would say they can play a bit more aggressive because you've got the Wardens, and they can push, and they've got the 3 blade champions, so they can advance and charge once per game, and do so. They've got the mobility, and I think they can advance and charge. They've got the mobility and they've got the pressure, so I think they're a bit more aggressive list than what we're taking. But I could be wrong. I'm not a Custodes.
So it's totally contrary to what I've said. So I'll shut up and I'll leave the opinion to you.
No, I mean I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm not a Custodes player. But they can, I believe, advance and charge with 3 units once per game, which means if they can stage like turn 1 with 3 of their units in the blade champs, and then turn 2 just push in pressure and really start controlling the board and your opponent's deployments on. So I think that's more of an aggressive build than what we've got.
Okay, that's a fair take. Now you've got England with Necrons, Orcs, Grey Knights, Custodes, Space Marines, Thousand Suns, Death Guard, and Imperial Guard.
Yeah, it's. I'm like, I think the standout for me is again, we've got a Necrons with a monolith. I think she's got 2 monoliths. I can't actually remember. There's monoliths. There's going to be quite a few monoliths this weekend. She's got 2 monoliths and some revs. So it's quite a different approach, I would say, for Hypercrypt. So I'm kind of keen to see how she does with that, Josie. And then we've got the Thousand Suns. So if that is in fact their answer to things like Necrons, I'm really excited to see if that works out well for them, because that'll be an answer for the rest of the world that probably haven't figured out yet.
Yep, that's what potentially it is. And last but not least, we've got the Scots with Space Marines, Necrons, Death Guard, Sisters, Orcs, Eldar, Votan, and Guard.
Okay, I will say this about them is obviously Innes had to bring 4 Catans.
Obviously.
So whoever gets that is going to have a really enjoyable game. So we'll see.
Yep.
Outside of that, it's pretty sort of standardish list. I don't think they're going like that much out of the park. A lot of the Eldar lists are kind of similar until we go into like USA, where they're bringing I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. I think it's a Forge World Wraith Knight. I'm not too sure.
It is. We've got that list in one of the tabs, so
we can
that
talk
one
about
as
that
well.
Yeah. USA bringing. It's nice to see USA bringing World Eaters, because I think there's a lot of too much negativity around World Eaters. A lot of people saying that they're dead, but we are still seeing people doing really well with World Eaters. So them bringing World Eaters is definitely sort of making a bit of a statement that, hey, maybe World Eaters isn't so bad, and we're going to prove people wrong. Plus, it can flip up some pairings as well, I would say.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a question of if the good pairings have really gotten that much worse with those nerfs. It does look like everyone just saw, okay, this army's nerfed, let's throw it in the bin and pick up something else. So it'll be very interesting to see how Anthony performs with them.
Yeah, and some of the sort of some of the armies that actually were like predators for World Eaters did get nerfed. So maybe there is play in there. So we'll find out this weekend.
But then again, I would counter that with the resurgence of Custodes. Might be a bit
that is true
for World Eaters to thrive, although it's just one army, right? And
yeah, Custodes. Exactly. So I mean, like in an 8v8 situation, in a 5v5, then there is questions that you might have to ask whether it is worth taking or not, because maybe you can't necessarily guarantee you won't be in that matchup. Especially, and then there's also a lot of popularity around Death Guards, which can counter World Eaters a little bit because they've got obviously a lot of fight firsts. But when it's an 8v8, you've got a little bit more leeway and a little bit more freedom to get the matchups that you want. So I'm sure they'll be able to play around that and avoid Custodes or Death Guard for the World Eaters.
Sure.
And with obviously we've got a lot less. I don't think we've got a single Night Spinner. Or I could be wrong. Maybe there's like one or two.
There's definitely one when I looked through the lists yesterday, but I don't remember where it is. I think it's in the Netherlands one.
Okay, but like a lot less Night Spinners does make World Eaters a little bit more enjoyable for them to just roam around the board. So maybe it could possibly be an answer for Eldar. We'll see.
Okay. All right, guys. I think we've got the faction spread and team compositions covered, more or less. Obviously, we could talk about this for hours, but we don't have that much time. It's very late. So we move on to a couple of lists that we think are interesting, and we've got some help from Typhus and Pumbaa from StatCheck as well as to what we should look at. I have no idea what's hidden under these tabs. I mean, more or less I do, but I don't know the order
That's a
that
surprise.
they're gonna pop up in. So yeah, let's go to the first one, and we've got the Blood Angels.
Okay.
Let me make that a little bit bigger for anyone who's watching. So we've got Olivier playing the Blood Angels on the Blood Angel detachment. I think that's a bit of a surprise to see. I don't think it was picked that often when you could just play Gladius or whatever other stuff is in the SM book.
See,
So
that's what is really interesting for me, is the fact that it is actually Blood Angels and not Gladius. Because that's a little bit
or
different.
Ironstorm with the...
Yeah,
with
like
think,
3 whirlwinds or
I
something
think
nonsense.
it was a thing, right? To play Blood Angels and Ironstorms. Well, nevertheless, he's got 3 captains with plasma pistols and power fists. So I guess it's a bit like CSM thing. They assumingly go with the 5 assault intercessors, with the 3 5-man assault intercessor squads. He's got 3 more characters. So Lamartis, a lieutenant with combat weapon, and the Sanguinor. 3 squads of Def Company jump packs, all with Inferno pistols and power fists, and Impulsor. Not really sure who's from. Oh yeah, obviously one of the assault intercessor squads can ride that. A Lancer to just give the impression of, hey, I can shoot. Which is kind of protecting one firing lane.
It's also good at popping transports and stuff, so the Def Company or the assault intercessors can get in and get stuck in.
I can kill a Rhino or something of that magnitude,
definitely.
right?
Yeah.
There's also a Land Raider Redeemer. I mean, what would a Space Marine list be without a Land Raider, right?
Yeah, if you can't barbecue somebody on the Overwatch, what's the point of playing?
Exactly. And 3 units of scouts of your section monkeys, screens, and stuff like that. So, if I'm not mistaken, the Sons of Sanguinius detachment has got a little bit improved, that it now gives a +2 to strength and +1 attack on the charge instead of a +1/+1.
+2 and +1, yeah.
Yeah, so this obviously means Thunderhammers are now strength 10, quite an important threshold to have. Same goes for Power Fists, right? But that's, I think, all I can say about this list. I'm not really sure what the stratagems are. Haven't checked it out
they've
yet.
got stratagem-wise, it's things like you can fall back and charge. You can do the 6-inch consolidate rather than a 3-inch, so that's really good as well if you want to just bash something and try and get onto an objective or just try and wrap and things like that. You've got the instant fight on death as well, which is really good. So like you don't have to roll a focus or whatever. It's just 2 CP and just fight on death.
That's always a nice one.
Exactly, things like Lance Lance for strat, and then I think they've got armor contempt like every Space Marine has. So they've got some pretty good stratagems, to be honest with you. But then the Sanguinor is, I think, like the sort of creme de la creme of this kind of list. Him retaining his.
Can he still jump around like crazy?
He's got his. I think it's once per battle. He sort of it's like an intervene, is it? He just basically can jump into engagement range.
Jump to engagement range. Just like there was a time where a Custodes captain could do that, right?
Yeah, there was a stratagem. I think I'm not too sure, but
yeah, they get lance and lethal hits for 1 CP. That's quite good. Some good stuff.
Yeah, so there's a lot of output that it can put out as a melee army. as long as it doesn't go into like a full-on transport-heavy list, I think it can do quite a bit, and it's probably an answer for a variety of armies that they put out. So it's definitely an army it's definitely a list people do not want to underestimate at all. There it is. It's Henry.
Yeah, so like you've said, once per battle, if he's in reserves, he can just come in, heroically intervene something that charged. So that's
but he also
a nice little trick
and
to
he's
have.
got, and then there it is, the fights first as well.
Yeah.
So it's a very good sort of protectionary unit for a lot of your stuff. So it's a high skill cap unit to use it at the right time. But once you do, it can really change the tide of a battle, I would say.
Yep, definitely.
He's very good.
And then he's got lone operative, so he's quite useful afterwards. Can just stay outside of shooting range and do some actions or stuff like that. Yeah, so as always, it'll be very interesting to see how Oliver performs with this list. And
yeah, I'm sure he'll play it into an excellent efficiency, to be fair. He'll do very well.
Yeah, 100% someone will be surprised by what this can do.
Yeah, I've never beaten him, and I think I've played him 3 times, and I've never won. It's very annoying. Fucking Space Marines. So hopefully, maybe this weekend will be the first time I win. We'll see.
Maybe you are in the same pod as the French team, so you might get your shot.
Maybe redemption. So what have we got here? Here we go. Here it is. Yes. Right. Okay. This
if you've got no idea how to pronounce that, I'm not even gonna try. What's the
Skathak? Skathak?
Yeah, Skathak might make more sense. Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense. It's Skathak. Skathak. I don't know. I tried to stop pronouncing what GW tries to sort of come up with names. They're very strange.
We can still look at it though.
This is like, if I remember correctly, this is the one that's got insane amounts of DACA in terms of melters.
It does have a weapon called the Inferno Lance, so that does sound like a scooped up melter.
So that's the Infernal Lance is 4 shots each, right? Strength 12 minus 4 damage, D6, melter 2. But he's got 2 Infernal Lances, so he's got 8 melter shots on top of a star cannon. And it's also the fact that it can keep shunting around. So if you're not getting it into combat, then at the end of
that's just once per battle, though.
Is it once per battle? But still, I mean, it's still a really good tool piece to have.
Yeah, for a model like that, 100%.
Yeah, and it's still like toughness 12 to up armor save.
Yep.
I don't think it's got an invulnerable save because it's got the double.
No, it doesn't have, and although because it doesn't have a shield. It's got double Inferno Lances, like you said. So no, it doesn't have an.
No, it does. It does. It says here actually, model is equipped with an Inferno Lance, Titanic feet, and Scatter Shield. And the Scatter Shield can be replaced with.
Yeah.
Oh god! Oh
my
god! So it's got 2 Infernal Lances and it's got 2 Star Cannons. So it's got 8 melter shots and 4 Strength 8 AP3 damage 2 shots. Jesus Christ, that's disgusting. How many points is it? 490 points. Oh, we all thought we got away from Wraith Knights and they're back.
They're back. Never getting away from that.
No. So this is probably a really good unit. We've not seen it as anywhere near as much in Europe. So hopefully this won't put people off or like catch people out. But that combined with the Avatar of Cain that's a lot of damage.
Yeah, it's kind of a similar build where you run the Avatar of Cain and the Incarn. Just a little bit similar.
And he's got, I think, 3D cannons, hasn't he?
Yeah,
fantastic.
3D cannons. So solid shooting. Not gonna have fun playing that because you're not catching it. And in any chance. And also,
what does it have
the
support-wise? What's its support units? Because Eldar kind of lives and breathes on its support units as well as its damage. So
3 units of Hawks, 3 units of Spiders.
Okay, so it's a good list.
Very good list.
Okay. Yeah, that's going to be it. That's very much a sort of anti-vehicle, anti-monster, transport heavy list. It's going to pop transports like no tomorrow, and then
it's got the warp spiders to pick whatever else, whatever pops out, and Hawks can do the actions as well and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
just coming in to show you that if Eldar are never beaten and never running out of ideas.
No. Then we've got this is Florian's list, or I've been told it's actually Liam Hackett's as well.
Yeah, so I found out yesterday that this was actually Liam Hackett's list. I think. Oh, it was today. I think. So it's what Silent King, 3 monoliths, and a lot of immortals.
Yeah, 5 units of 5. Then there's the Canoptic Spider. I think he gives a 6-up feel no pain to the monoliths as if they weren't tough enough. A single Locust Destroyer, unit of flayed ones, so mission pieces. But yeah, this is also a very much with the Death Race. It's a good list that just pops tanks, transports, and stuff like that.
I also with the Silent King. The Silent King ignores. Does it allow? I believe he allows them to ignore modifiers, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that is correct. So
it's also
good
a
for
really
mirrors
good.
And Catan.
Yes, exactly. It's a very good anti-mirror. And it's basically any army that can't deal with like toughness 13, so anything that doesn't have strength 14 or above, or is Votank because you get +1 to wound, is really going to struggle into this. It's just a pure skew. Like, can you kill my monoliths? No, then I'm going to win kind of list. And with it being hypercrypt as well, being able to just teleport them monoliths around and 3-inch deep strike, it's going to be quite a high pressure win or make or break on whether you've paired it correctly or not. I think this kind of list, but still, it's an interesting one. It's different. Curious to see how it sort of travels around on WTC terrain as well. Actually,
yep, exactly. Well, I mean, it can just jump almost everything around with the hypercrypt ability and the monoliths abilities. But still, right? The terrains on some maps are quite tightly together, so we'll see if that stuff can fit.
There are some maps where there's a lot of sort of like, if you place models in certain areas, the monolith is going to have to move like 6 inches further back because it can't. It's quite a big model. So if you go against something fast, something that's got quite a lot of board size, like a lot of like say gaunts or whatever, then the second you put them up into deep strike, they're not going to have many places to come down. So they have to pair this properly.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. So it's going to be interesting how they use this in the pairing process, because if it's very table dependent, that might be a bit of a giveaway.
Yeah, exactly. So like they might have to make a conscientious decision. Do we sort of use this as a defender earlier on to make sure that we can secure some tables, or do we run the risk and have to use some different defenders to try and take tables that wouldn't like? So the question is, for me, is how much does it affect the pairings in an 8v8? I'm assuming it's going to be a very good list, but there are some complications around it, as well as obviously it's got some positives as well.
Yep. Okay, next one. Drukhari.
The planes.
The Darkin. Yeah, the planes. So this is probably the reason, the reason why it's most interesting, or the reason that makes it interesting, is here at the end of the list. So a triple bomber. Interestingly, it's the only it's a data sheet that actually got nerfed in the data slate by a points increase, and I'm not gonna lie, it did surprise me a little. Not because it's not good, but because I don't think I've seen a Drukhari list performing well. So why is something taking a points hit?
I mean, some people have actually been performing well. But I think this is one of the cases where Games Workshop have made the correct decision that if they buff something quite substantially in one area, they should probably nerf a couple of other things that might overperform, just to try and balance the scales a little bit. Obviously, something they don't do everywhere else, but the Void Raven Bombers are very, very good units.
They are. With the token support, they are solid and consistent. So
what weapon has he got? So they've got 2 Void Lances and a Void Raven missile. So a Void Lance is basically, so it's what? It's going to be 4 shots, strength 14, -4, damage D6 +2.
I'm not sure about the AP. It might be -3. It's maybe AP4, you sure?
AP4, 100% AP4.
I know the Dark Scythe has AP4, but it's strength 8 damage too, but the volume of shots is much better because it's
I think it's
12 shots from 2.
Yeah, 12 shots if you've got 2,
Yeah.
So he's got so he's got 1 with the Dark Scythe. That's quite cool. It's good at killing 2-wound infantry and things like that. The Void Lance for killing vehicles. And then you've even got the missiles, which are quite good. So it's got it's D3 or D6 blast. So it's good at clearing a little bit of infantry, a little bit of screen, or it's good at sort of killing like 3-wounded monsters and things like that. But of course,
the block off the last wound.
Exactly.
If the lance whiff a little.
Exactly. The key here though is the mortals that they can do. So
yeah, but that's very flippy, and
it is.
It can be blocked by not having because I think if it flies off the table, it can't drop a bomb.
Yeah,
something like that. So
maybe.
So yeah, I think it can be avoided, and it's very random. But if it goes off, oh boy.
Yeah, it's one of them where it's like if it goes off, it can end a game quite quickly because if you roll a 6 on the range and then roll a d6, then it's a d6. If you make all your 4+ or enough, that's a lot of mortals, and you're doing that 3 times.
Yeah.
So it is swingy, but it can be quite impactful.
Yep. So then he's got 2 units of Darklands Scourges. Obviously, with the move after shooting, that's quite a good unit. Although also token hungry, a single Ravager, 2 units of Mandrakes, 2 units of Incubi. So that's something that got buffed in the data slate with the ability to get Lance and being joined by an Archon who gives full rerolls, 2 Raiders for those guys, a Chronos to recycle some of those tokens, which this army heavily needs, the Archons to the Incubi mentioned before, and 2 units of Beastmasters.
See, Beastmasters are the ones, the Beastmaster Beast Packs are the ones that I actually quite like. It's 105 points, you give up a character, but it's very fast. It has a pre-game move, it's very fast. So if you go first, you can like really lock in some armies in their deployment zone. So I really like these kind of units. So that's really fun, really key for me.
Yeah, especially that it synergizes quite well here because you kind of need a little bit of time to stage the Incubi and the Raiders and for the planes to arrive. So yeah, it works really well with the rest of the list. Yeah,
this is what I don't like about aircraft. It's like arriving like turn 3, or if you want to ingress turn 2, it's you can't really do anything until like turn 3. It's kind of, and the question is whether your game's over or not by that point. So he hasn't gone from a more MSU approach, which is like very different from what everybody else has sort of been trending up this wise. And there's a lot of, I think, not negativity, but there's a lot of like questions about where Drukhari fit in the meta. Do they fit in the top 8? Because they've got a lot of bad matchups, but it is looking like Mache is trying to sort of think outside the box and come up with solutions and place Drukhari somewhere. So we'll see how he does. And well, obviously I know what his matrix looks like, but so I won't say that. But we'll see where he fits them and how well it goes.
Yep. Then we've got Leshu's Grey Knights because he's moved away from Land Raiders and he's got 2 Razorbacks in his list. But other than that, there is 2 Librarians, a Grandmaster with the enhancement that you when you're targeted, you just move away. Or teleport away, I should say.
Yeah.
A strike squad, an interceptor squad, 2 dread knights that got buffed in the data slate. The side cannons and the demon hammers have improved. There are 3 purgation
Three
squads.
purgation squads.
Yeah, and a blob of paladins. Obviously, going with that grandmaster with the sigil of what now? Of exigence. Yeah, so Dread Knights improved. That's interesting. The Paladins have got quite an output. But yeah,
I think the key here, is definitely the Dread Knights. I think Dread Knights are what they bring. Now that side cannons have like improved quite substantially. For 185 points, they're a really solid unit, I would say.
yeah, I mean they give you some punch into vehicles, right? Because that's something that Grey Knights would have struggled with before, just relying mainly on the librarians to roll well and not kill themselves. Now that you've got something that's a little bit safer, more stable.
Yeah, exactly. A strength 10, they can, and like AP2 damage 3, they can pop open rhinos. They can do quite a lot actually. And the flat 3 is really good. And the highest strength just is obviously kind of carries that data sheet quite a lot now. It's a really good change, to be honest with you. It's nice to see Grey Knights get a little bit more push, and rather than focus just entirely on mobility, now they're able to just play a bit more aggressive, do a little bit more damage. So we'll see what they do, but it's a good list. I quite like this. It's different from the sort of like Inceptor spam that we've seen quite often, and the strike spam, the Inceptor spam. So, but of course, like having 2 librarians in there is like a staple these days. Even though they did go up in points.
Yep, they did. But there's still a solid damage output, right? So can't be overlooked. And
The
if you've
second
got just
list,
one
list
and
sort
a
of,
stratagem to drop in 3 inches, then you can always risk something if you have to.
exactly the second what was I going to say? Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. I can't remember what I was going to say. But like they have got considerable output, and once the army sort of connects in melee, it's got some good damage as well now. So
Yep.
it looks better than it was in my opinion. A little bit more exciting. Whereas I think like Grey Knights before the change, where like you were pigeonholed into like certain units, was a bit boring. So
Then we've got the Chaos Space Marines, the only ones, and it doesn't look like much has changed. I mean, we'll still see the same data sheets, but there's significantly less here.
Yeah, but I mean, you still would take the Lords because Lords are just ridiculous value for what they provide.
Yeah, definitely.
What else have we got? So we've got
So you've got
Legionnaires.
triple lords with chosen, a cultist mob, because you kind of you get the sticky objective, right? So you want to take them. Legionaries to go along with in a rhino with one of the chosen squads. A change here, you wouldn't usually have them undivided, I think. But now with the rhino mark change, they have to be the same mark. So he's got 2 oblets, a unit of 2, and some raptor, warp talon, chaos spikes. So a lot of MSU with 1 forge fiend firing support and 2 rhinos undivided, as kind of I led on before. But yeah, so I didn't have the time to go through this thoroughly before we connected, so I thought it was more of the old style list, but he's gone quite a lot more into the MSU sort of thing with 3 Raptor units and 3 bike units. So definitely less of a damage output army, and more into like playing with the sheer amount of units and scoring potentially.
True. I mean, the bike has been Nurgle is interesting. I'm not 100% sure sort of. I suppose, yeah, if you want to just use them as action monkeys or like early game holding objectives, because quite the toughness 5, 3 wounds, 3 apartment save for 8 to 5 points. It's 9 wounds, toughness 5. They're quite survivable for the cost, and they are very fast, and they've got the repositioning ability, outmaneuver or whatever it's called. So it looks like he's gone for more of a I'm going to play the mission a little bit better. And rather than being like a hammer, he's going to sort of like pick off key units and take them out that way with the Chosen and the Warp Talons and the Raptors. And of course, you still take a Forge Fiend because why would you not? It's like incredible ship platform. But Undivided and not Nurgle. Interesting.
Well, you can still reroll wounds, right? And that's kind of helpful with Strength 10 and when you want to fish for 6s for those dev wounds.
Yeah.
So you don't have that on the Nurgle one. Actually has a lot less damage output if you think about it. Although now if you don't reroll hits, then maybe it's not that much of a difference.
I don't know. I still find that Nurgle exploding on 5s is quite scary. But I suppose you're right. If you want to pop the dev wounds and you just reroll everything, you do get a little bit more efficiency out. But it's more being able to pop the Mark of Nurgle unless they change the Nurgle doesn't work on vehicles, but I don't think that's the case.
What does it work on vehicles? The Mark of Nurgle?
Yeah, the Mark of Nurgle. That does still work on vehicles, right?
Yeah. It's just changed that it's 18 inches, not 12.
Yeah.
With the Rhinos not using it now, I mean, there is an argument to be made that Nurgle.
Maybe because he's planning it more on the bikers. So like being able to give them like early game holding objectives, or maybe they're just there so they can sort of move block some stuff and play a bit more of a controlled play style. I guess we'll find out, but I definitely sort of like where it's going because CSM was a little bit too strong. Well, it was way more than a little bit. It was very strong for what its points cost were, and its rules were so good with the marks. I do like the fact that it's a bit more of an MSU based approach now. It still has damage, but it's not like constant wave after wave after wave of too much damage. So it looks like it would be a good fun list to play against.
Definitely. Moving on, we've got Tau. Okay, you wanted us to go through Tau. It's a list very similar to at least one of your iterations that you've been playing. So the floor is yours.
This is an interesting one because we were originally going to take Tau. However, after I took it to the ITT, my biggest problem is it's an army that once you sort of start to snowball downwards, you can't really come backwards. So if things start to turn a little bit more south, it's hard to bring it back because you've not really got a good forward push because a lot of things are vehicles. And your opponent always has like 37 on secondaries because they're going to take homers, they're going to bring it down. They'll always get 20. And they'll always usually get 15 or 17 on homers. So that was always a problem in teams because you can never be inconsistent 14 plus, which a lot of players really kind of rely on. This is an interesting list because what it's done is it's gone with the triple Riptide, it's gone with the triple Breacher, which what I've been playing, but instead of using Crisis, it's gone with a little bit more Breacher squads and a little bit more MSU approach, which I enjoy. However, I do think it's got some problems. So I'm curious to see how this plays out. So I like the Piranhas. However, if the idea was to play more like I'm going to play this list as if I'm going to just play the mission, deny my opponent their points, try and deny prime with the breaches, and just play the mission and play that game, I think it's going to have some good pairings, but not as many good pairings as another kind of list. I think it's a bit more swingy, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear that.
Output's going to be a big problem with this. So it's got some Markolites, but the Markolites are kind of they've got Markolites and breaches, but only one lot of Tetras. They've got Markolites in stealth suits, but the stealth suits aren't gonna really survive very long, unless he gets unless he plays really defensive with them. But I am assuming he wants them for homers and things like that. It looks like a very much I'm going to play Cleanse and Homers list and then start throwing breaches on top of your objectives to stop you getting primary and win that way. It still gives up Bring It Down though, because it's got like the Piranhas and the Riptides and the Devilfish. So 2 turns of an aggressive push and you'll get a 20 on Bring It Down. However, I do like the list though. It's interesting.
Yeah, it looks like as if you're giving up Bring It Down anyway, then might as well just bring all the smaller vehicles to be able to, maybe move block a little bit. And well, it's just the sheer amount of wounds on a like vehicle-esque profile might be problematic for some armies.
Maybe. I think the concern I have is if he hasn't got any Cadre Fireblades for the breaches. So what that means is breaches are no longer sort of like your premium damage. They're more of a support function. And hey, I am actually going to get them out and just throw them onto an objective to deny you primary every single time, which is absolutely fine. The problem is there's no reliable damage. So like Riptides are good, but they're not reliable. So there's no reliable damage like a block of 6 Crisis. And I understand why everyone wants to move away from Crisis. I do get that, but they are really good at if you are sort of losing a little bit or you need to pressure, you've got that reliable damage that can just go in on one banger unit and then fire and fade outwards and things like that. So without that, and his opponent can just push him very aggressively and he's going to really struggle to push him back. So that's my concern here. I do like the commanders though. He's bringing commanders. They're very cheap to just drop down and like sort of suicide kill something. At 80 points, 4 cyclics is still 12 shots. It's if he's gonna get spotted by tetras, they're gonna hit on 2s, or you reroll everything. They explode on 6s, so they do have a little bit of output. But like I say, my concern here is if someone plays a very aggressive army and then they push him, especially turn 1 and 2, he has not really a good way to sort of like get him out of that, dig himself out without the Crisis. So yeah, we'll see. It's an interesting list though. Any comments from you?
I don't think so. I was going to ask about the commanders, but you got there. And the fact that they don't have anyone to like hang out with in this list.
I think here, as well as with this kind of list as well, the issue is no Kroot. And the reason why I really like Farstalkers is for this kind of list, you kind of want to slow down your opponent because you haven't got, like I say, we're not playing hyper aggressive with this kind of list. You need to slow down your opponent and try and force them to come at you in waves rather than all at once. And Farstalkers are really good at that because you can just line them up in certain areas and then your opponent has to come around them. But he hasn't got any of that, so
I mean, I would assume the Piranhas played that role, right? To an extent.
They can, but they don't
necessarily
move, right?
Because they don't have that much footprint, right?
Exactly. Piranhas doesn't have a lot of footprint either. You could like line up 2 Piranhas next to each other.
They can block a vehicle, right? Just playing between
they can
2
block
ruins
vehicle,
and vehicles.
Absolutely, they can block vehicles. The problem is the vehicles aren't the issue for Tau. It's the aggressive infantry that sort of push forward. Excuse me, sorry. Or like, so for example, what's going to stop, I don't know, like Chosen coming out of a Rhino and charging one of your Riptides and just one-shotting it if you go a bit too close. Whereas Kroot can like line around a ruin, stop him from coming out of that ruin and then forcing him to have to actually attack the Kroot, and you trade that way. But without these sort of buddies, you're going to have to rely on the stealth suits. You're going to have to rely on the Pathfinders, and then you kind of run out of marker lights. That is reliable. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But I'm keen to see how he fixes that problem.
We'll see. We'll just have to wait and see. And last but not least, it's the Other Blood Angels list.
It's the Other Blood Angels list.
It's not the Blood Angels detachment, though. It's
this is the original Gladius task force.
But
and that's a lot of chaplains.
Yeah, I was looking through this list yesterday, and it did raise an eyebrow of mine at one point because if I scroll down a little, you've got 4 units of Death Company, and I'm like, hey, how is this? Isn't legal, is it? But okay, the jump pack one is a different data sheet. Was interesting.
Is it? Is it?
Well, it looks like it is, unless we're
I
just
have no idea.
busting him live. Well, not really live, but on air. Let's double check
Maybe
that.
it is.
That
Maybe it is. That's
company. Oh no, why is it 33 times in this thing? Intercessors
might
are
be
the
because
full
it's
data
a
sheet. Deaf Company
deaf company.
Marines. Deaf Company Marines with jump packs.
Interesting.
There you go.
Interesting. So, how many transports has it got? Because what I can see here is, so the chaplain gives them +1 to wound, from what I understand.
No idea. Isn't it hit
Um,
rerolls and lethals? I think.
no, chaplain gives +1 to wound in
Okay,
melee.
if you say so. He's only got
Is it
one
the right
rhino,
chaplain?
but he's
Yeah.
also got a land raider, so he can put
Okay,
all
so yeah, he can put them.
all
Obviously, he's got a redeemer.
yeah all 20 of those dudes without jump
Mhm.
packs ride in taxis.
Mhm.
There's also 3 scout squads, no surprises, an infiltrator squad, 2 squads of eradicators. Is not the most popular pick, I'm gonna say.
Did
Then
they
yeah,
really
2
change
units
the
of assault intercessors with jump packs. That's a nice little mission unit. They can deal some mortals right on the charge. And then yeah,
How
30 Death
many?
Company Marines in total.
So yeah. So go up a second. How many assault was it? Go up.
2 units of 5.
Oh, just 2 units of 5. Okay, so yeah, they're pretty good at just clearing screens, doing mission stuff.
Yep.
I can see the play. I can see it's like you sort of you play it a little bit more like CSM, I think maybe, where you've got your chaplain and you've got your death company, so they get +1 to wound, and they can move forward the transports. They're quite fast, especially in Gladius. So it's different. It looks like a similar list, but it's also quite different to Olivier's. So,
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. Those Death Company Marines feels like they would really benefit from the actual Blood Angel detachment, getting those Piefists to strength 10, and then getting a +1 to wound from the chaplain. That would be wounding a lot of stuff pretty well.
I'm not sure, because at the same time it's like they still get fight on death, they still get armor of contempt, but they can still get lance,
Advance
I
in
believe. I
charge.
think, yeah, but they get that from the chaplains anyway. But they get, what else do they get? They get this. This is the doctrines, isn't it? So they get assault doctrines,
Advance
so
in
they can advance in
charge, right?
charge. Yeah, which can be really big coming from the transports with the Death Company that are just on foot.
Yeah, and also the guys with the jump packs, right? Where you can stage turn 1 and then turn 2. You get a lot of movement after which you can charge.
So there is a lot of pressure in the squad. So it's kind of, I think it kind of plays a little bit like CSM, like we said, where it's like we're putting our transports here and then we're just going to rush out and do a lot of high pressure damage. It's nice to see two similar armies, like with 2 different playstyles, perhaps.
Yeah, definitely. And Space Marines in general, I think there are quite a lot of builds. I mean, I don't want to say stuff off the top of my head, but I think that all of the Space Marines are actually at least a little bit different from one another.
Yeah, I do. I think a lot of people are up and down, and it's like I think there's a very sort of wide opinion on Space Marines. But for me, I think Space Marines are in a really good position. Just 1 second. I'm just going to have a quick check at what our Black Templar list was like, because it was a bit different, very different.
Yeah, it was, because it's more combat oriented, right? It's got 2 Crusader blobs, and then also 2 units of jump pack intercessors, 2 units of infiltrators, a land raider. Oh, there's a 3rd blob here, but it's Zord Referent blob. And 2 units of scouts.
It's got a Land Raider and it's not Redeemer. That's a questionable choice, but I can see why though, because it's got like Godhammer las cannons and a melter, so you can use it to try and pop transports. But still, I can see
I think
there's
it's
quite
also
sort
20
of
points cheaper. That might have been the
okay.
issue.
Maybe that's probably why. But like, I think there's some like sort of how to call it. This and the Blood Angels are still quite similar. Where in the sense that it's a lot of melee pressure. It's like 3 big squads. We're going to fire them out of a transport of a Land Raider. It's just different in essence, but it's the same sort of approach, I would say. So that's quite interesting that we've gone with Black Templars and everyone else has gone with Blood Angels. Kind of in the same sense that we've gone with one Custodes build and everyone else has gone with different, the same different.
No, I mean the Belgium one has got a MSU Crusader squads, and then
they got
the 2 Lancers and 3 Reapers.
Black Templars.
So that's the more classic, I want to say, Black Iron Templar list.
Iron Templar.
Yeah, who else has got?
Oh, right, they've got 4 lots of Crusaders, and then every box of gladiators that they could find on the shelf.
Yep, exactly. They've bought out the whole local Games Workshop.
Yeah.
Right, who's got? Alex Harrison has also got an Iron Storm, but also 3 Reapers, 3 Predators, a Storm Raven, and some Impulsors for the.
Oh my god! So he's got 3 Reapers, 3 Destructors, a Storm Raven, and 3 Impulsors.
Yep.
Okay. Wow.
That's that.
He's really trying to compete with Tau on how many bring it down points you can collect in one list. But, okay, wow, that's interesting.
I think Knights are hard to beat in that regard.
Are they? Are they though? You've
12,
got what? How many
36,
12?
12. Yeah, so
36
points.
Please. My average Tau list is like 44.
Okay. Scotland have got and another Iron Storm, very similar to the Belgian one. It's almost exactly the same, or maybe it's exactly the same. So okay, less variety than I thought there is. But
I thought we were onto something special then when we had 2 Blood Angels and a Black Templars, and then suddenly,
and then the rest are actually all Iron Storms. So yeah, almost
lovely.
Almost had it. Right. Any other list you want to discuss? Oh, there is one Vanguard in USA.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a Centurion Blob and 2 units of 6-man Plasma Inceptors.
Manius Kaga and the Devastator squad.
Yeah.
I think that's more of an American style list as well. We've seen this kind of like, although I'm not sure about the Inquisitorial Henchmen, I guess they're just really cheap. But I think we've seen like the sort of Vanguard is more wider used in the US, and I think more Iron Storm and Black Templars is more used over here, and that's probably down to terrain and things like that. But it's nice to see we've got like 4 different like sort of archetypes for Space Marines out of 6 lists, which is good.
Yeah,
it's good. Everyone's been very creative, I would say.
Yep. Right. Any final thoughts?
No, I think it's event-wise. I think it's going to be a good event. Definitely excited. Should be fun. And you're there, aren't you?
I am.
Do you want to look excited about that or smile? There
this is a moment where the anxiety is reaching its peak.
Why?
Like right before the event. Oh,
just remember to tank shock. That's all you need to do. Charge, tank shock, boom, points.
That's I've limited my memory to 2 stratagems: walk through walls, tank shock. I don't know any others.
That's all you need, right? That's what Chaos Knights are built around.
Yeah, I sometimes remember that there is a strat for sustained hits. I use it and don't roll a single 6. So, it's just like the universe is telling me, mate, just tank shock them.
Exactly. I don't think I've ever seen anything outside of that in Terror Shades. I don't know any other
And
stratagems.
just let's say there aren't any more.
Yeah, you just got the 3.
Yep.
But it'll be a good event, man. It's always enjoyable.
Yeah,
So,
definitely looking forward to it. All right. Well, in that case, thanks, Danny, for your expertise. It was wonderful to have you on. And
thank you.
you'll be hearing more about Pyra during the event on the Contact Lost Facebook and the Pyra Cup Facebook page. Both of them should be linked in the video description below, so make sure to check that out. Again, a massive thank you to our patrons, our sponsors, Weyland-Yutani and Army Painter, who are also linked in the video descriptions below. And yeah, Feb 24th is the date to mark on your calendars if you haven't done that yet. This is when the event will be taking place, so make sure to follow all the hotness that's going to be happening there. This is it from us. If you like what we do, subscribe, hit the bell button, like, all that jazz. You know the drill. Thanks, everyone, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.